Pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And today, I wanted to share with you my Unity user's guide to learning Unreal. So, this is not going to be a one is better than the other video. Both of these applications have their merits and their pitfalls, but being a long-time Unity user, I was not familiar with Unreal because I was using Unity, I was working on projects. Didn't really have a lot of time to stop and learn something totally new, like a whole new IDE. However, in my spare time, I've been tinkering and learning and following tutorials, and I've been learning a lot, and I think that both are great, and both have their merits, of course, and you can do all kinds of things in each, but I wanted to kind of bolster the resume, and also I wanted to have a chance to learn something entirely new that I know part of my audience and part of the world would be interested in learning. So I set apart to learn both, and now we can do sort of a comparison, but I'm not comparing features versus things that are missing. I want to show you, if you know Unity very well, or even moderately well, and you want to learn Unreal, here are some of the equivalencies that I've found. If you're finding yourself getting a little lost, or you're having trouble with things, here's sort of what would be the equivalent of what's familiar. So to begin with, I want to show you here with our details panel, and this operates very similar to the inspector. So if I bring up my Unity project here, and if I select any object, over here I have the inspector, and this is all using the default layouts, by the way, so this should be easier if you are most familiar with the default layout. So the inspector gives me all of the information about the chosen game object, or in Unreal they call it an actor, the thing that is in the world. Now that I've selected it, these are its properties. See here its position in the world, its rotation, its scale, what kind of visible properties it has, and the material applied. So now if I jump back over to Unreal, and if I select an object, I select this box for example, it's going to show me here same kind of information. It's going to tell me what kind of a material it has, it's a static mesh, where is it in the world, and I have some other properties like the physics involved, its collision, lighting, it's all very similar, it's all the same kind of basic information, and fortunately, with the default layout that we're working with, it's in approximately the same location. It's on this right-hand column here with our main viewport in the middle. So that's pretty handy. So that's one thing that I've noticed that is very fortunate if you're moving from Unity to Unreal. The details or your inspector is in roughly the same place, and it's all the same information you're used to looking for. Now the next thing is what would be our hierarchy. If I go back to Unity, sorry, a little bit of bouncing back and forth. Here's my hierarchy, my scene hierarchy, all the things that are involved in this scene, and you can see I've collapsed everything into just these categories, and that way I make my scene a lot more organized. So how do I do that over in Unreal? So in Unreal, our hierarchy is now called the World Outliner. And this is great because if you're familiar with things like 3ds Max or Maya, there is the outliner. And the outliner is literally a list of things, an outline, like if you were writing a report, an outline of everything that's in your scene. And now you have a way to organize that. So for example here, I have everything that's in the scene, and I just started, copying things, and I started moving things around. I made this little gauntlet here to teach myself some things, and so I was able to take all of these objects, and over here, very simply, there's a icon right here, create a new folder. So I made a new folder, and you can see up here, or right here, I made a folder called Matt's Junk, and I just threw everything in there. And what's nice about that is this works just like regular old folders in Windows. And the little eye icon here means I can hide that from the scene. Now you can notice that the other objects here, because I've baked the lighting, it keeps the shadows from those objects. So that just hides the, I would say, physical objects for now. So that will hide that for us. But these are really nice. You can stack them and you can hide them. And I believe there's even ways to sort by type. Yeah, you can sort. It's really, and of course a search feature. So this is very robust, very nice setup. And the ability to do your own folders, that's sort of the equivalent if I go into Unity here, and if I were to create a new game object, just a new empty object, and I could call this, folder, this would act like a folder, It's not going to do anything. I can put it at the 0 point in the world just for organizational purposes. And now I can take anything and I can put it into that object, and here it is folder. So that's sort of how you would do that in Unity, is these are each basically folders. There's nothing in them really, they're blank. And you can see here, I've marked them as static, and I've just put all these things in them. So anything that's not going to move, the structure of the level here, I've put into static. And then the folder, you can put whatever you want. So that's kind of how that works, and that's really nice. So what we're used to seeing in Unity is that our hierarchy is over here, but this space is taken up by, it's called modes. So this space now is for your ability to do painting, terrain, to do basic objects. You know, if you want to put a new cube or a sphere in the world, all kinds of things, including lights. You can do, let's see, visual effects. There's all kinds of things in here. I haven't quite gone through all of them yet, but here you go. If we want to put a light in the world, let's drag a light over there. There you go. So this area is taken up by this because I do find that I start using these things pretty quickly, just dragging them out, dragging them out. Now, the equivalency to this would be if I go back to Unity, that is our game object menu here. You see, these are all my 3D objects, all my lights. So it's a little easier in a sense that I don't have to click up here and expand the menu. Some of these, if I have it already set to basic and I'm using basic things, you can literally just click and drag, see, light, light, very easy. So that's sort of been taken from the collapsed state and brought into the world. Now you might not want that because you might want to have more visible space here. I'm still playing with the interface and seeing what it can do, but that's sort of how that works. So next is our game objects. So if I go back to Unity here, down here, my project setup, I have all these things that I've imported, and these are not things that are in the scene, not in my hierarchy, but these are resources that I can use, as you're familiar with. So if I go to my prefabs, I have all my prefabs for the level. So this equivalency, if I go hop back over to Unreal now, is down here. This is our content browser, and this contains everything that you've imported, all of the starter content, if you've imported the starter content, everything you've created. So you see these moving walls. These are things that I created. These are these guys here. If I pop into the level, I'll show you really quickly. So these are these things here. So those objects are just basically on a timer, back and forth, and they have physicality, so they will prevent me from moving forward. So I can not get through. Now I can get through, and then I have another wall here that you have to follow around. You have to juke around like that. So those objects are contained in my content browser here because I created them. I didn't import them, but I created them entirely inside the editor. But they are resources here, so I could put another moving wall down if I wanted to. See, so that's the same way that we get from Unity, from being able to say, oh, you know what, I need another piece of this here, so let me drag it there. So that comes from our imported content or our created content, not from the editor specific, prefab, those basic primitive objects. So this here, your project settings here, is now your content browser here. And again, fortunately, they're both sort of on the bottom. They're both in kind of the same physical space on the screen. And again, you can reorganize, you can move everything you want, no problem there. All right, so moving on, let's talk about scripting versus blueprints. So scripting in Unity, you have to write code. You can write C#, you can write Boo, you can write JavaScript. In Unity here, you can write C++, I believe, but I've been learning and trying to do almost everything through Blueprint. And the way the Blueprint works is, for example, say I wanted to do an effect, and I want it so that when you press a key, it does something. Well, let's first look at how we do that in Unity. In Unity, I have here some code open. So this is from our bombing run episode quite a while back. And this whole thing gets kicked off when we press the T key. So right here it says if, during the update, so every frame, we check to see if the player is pressing down a key and the key code we want is the T key, T, then we're going to start the coroutine which does all the bombing. So that's pressing T. So how does that work inside of Unreal? So in Unreal, in this scene, I have a special effect. Let me show you. We'll hit play. I'm going to jump up on this cube, jump over here, ignore the crazy cube, we'll talk about that in a second. So you see the walls moving. Now if I run and jump and hit tab, time has slowed. And I can hit tab again, tab again, tab again. There we go. I'll do that one more time to show you for emphasis. So if I jump up on here, I'm going to now slow time. Let me wait for the doors to start closing. Slow time. And I'm doing that by hitting the tab key. And I've hit tab again, you'll see our crazy wall go right back into its motion. Now the interesting thing I've noticed specifically about time is if I slow down time, everything is slow for this wall and I can jump past. I'm going to speed it back up. Now I'm going to slow it down again. And as I jump around this corner, you will notice this wall is unaffected by time. And I think I found the reason for that. We'll talk about that in just a second, related to blueprints. So how do we do this effect in Unreal if we're not doing any actual scripting? So I'm going to come up here to my blueprints and say open level blueprint. And this is sort of like code that the whole level has. So you can do all kinds of things in here. So this is how I do a key press inside of Unreal. There's literally an object here. I right click and look for the object. So I think I can do like spacebar. Yeah, see, you can look up the key that you want to press and then it creates this little node. And this is a node-based architecture. So this is similar to Substance Designer where you are clicking and dragging connections. So you're making a path. So I'm saying when I press tab, when it's pressed, I want you to go to this thing. And this does a flip-flop. So it says press it and then press it again to undo what you just did. And we're going to go to a ramping thing here. I'm not going to get into this right now, but it plays and then it plays from the reverse, so it undoes the effect, and then it just goes over here and says set the time, set how time flows for the level. So I did all of that pretty complex effect of slowing down time with just 4 little nodes here, and I just right click and find my node, and when I add it to the world. So if I'll do another tab just to show you how that works. So when I click there you go, he gets placed in the world. So it's very interesting how this works, and I like it because it's very similar to a node-based architecture. The difficulty I'm having so far, and the difficulty you, in theory, will have going from scripting, where you're accessing objects directly and doing lots of code, to this, is just finding the thing you want. So if you right-click, they're all categorized, all organized. And of course there's tons of tutorials and lots of resources online. So don't be afraid to experiment, play, see how it goes, But this is how you would do that sort of scripting, is we tie things together. Now this is fairly simple, but you can get incredibly complex and do some amazing things all inside of blueprints. So with that said, let's move on to our final topic, which is materials. Now materials in Unity, let's take a look at that first, see where we are and learn where we're going. We're learning new things. So if I go to my materials, which are right here, each of these materials, let's look at the window material, it has some pretty basic setup, and I just click here to say, let me find an imported object, texture that I want to apply to that slot. So this is the albedo, this is the normal map, etc., etc. If I go to Unreal, my chief complaint with Unreal, as far as materials, is that it's very unusual at first, but then it becomes very powerful. So that's the trade-off you have here. Whereas in Unity, typically, you use one material for one type of thing, and it's difficult to inherit. So there's an idea in programming called inheritance, where you can take an object and you can say, I want this object, but now I want to make what's called a child. So if I make another one, but now I want to change something slightly to this. And the problem with Unity is you can't do that with 2 materials here that I know of natively. There may be plugins, etc., asterisks on all this. I can't take this and say, okay, but I want this one to have even more metalness, but just this one. But you see, it changed this one too, because I'm changing the one material that they share. So to do this, I'd have to make an entirely new material called vents_more metal or something, and apply that material just to this object. So the materials natively in Unity, as I understand them, are very singular, and inheritance is not really allowed. So in Unreal, you spend a lot more time, in my opinion, creating the material, but then you can instance it, you can inherit it quite easily. So let me show you briefly how this works. So I'm going to create a new material, right-click, material, stone floor. This is one that I already have the textures ready for it. So if I double-click it, it's going to open up here, and again, we are node-based, and this is very similar and very comfortable to Designer, Substance Designer, if you're very familiar with that. Now, what we're going to do is, you don't actually import the textures. You import them into your content browser, but then to create a material, you are sampling from them. So think of it like when you're having your house painted and you go to the store and get that little card that has the colors painted on it. That's really what you're choosing, and then you tell the paint guy, this is what I want it to be. So basically, Unreal is the paint guy, and here we're just saying, this is what I want you to use. So to do this, you have a whole bunch of things here to choose from, but I'll show you the simple setup is if you go into your content browser and let's import our textures. So we do import them just like usual. So if I'm going to go to, where did I put this? It was learning Unreal, or is it Unreal UE4? Oh no, it's not working. UE4 learn, there we go. There we go, material practice, broken tile floor. I have these images, okay? So I'm going to select these. So we're going to do base color, AO, metallic, normal, roughness. I'm not going to worry about the height right this second, but we'll bring it in. So we're going to import all those objects, all those textures. Here they come. And it does a really nice job of telling you where it's at, what it's doing, and they will import here, and then we're going to tie them into our texture. Okay, yep, and it noticed that something that was called normal, it imported it as a normal map. That's really nice, we like that. All right, so let's go back to our stone floor thing here. Now, in order to import these, what you have to do is you first select it in the content browser, and then in here, I'm gonna hold T and left click. And now this has created a texture sample. And I can take this and just tie it into here and say, you're the base color, and let's go normal map, apply you into there, and you can turn on these live updates. I found that helps sometimes. I still seem to have trouble with it once in a while. Oh, I can drag it too. I did that totally by accident, but there you go. We're learning things already. So I believe the height, I'm not sure if this is correct, but I tied it to there. And my roughness, let's bring him in. This is a lot easier because I was having to select and then T and all that kind of thing, and it was irritating. It's just slow at first, and then once you get used to it, you're really able to fast forward with it, and it gets so much better once you can instance and inherit. That inheritance is so important. All right, so here's our object. Now, why does it look a little bit strange? I don't quite know, but that looks good. Okay, so this is our material, pardon me, I said object, I keep saying object. This is our material, and now that it's complete and we've saved it and everything's happy, let's do that one more time. I just want to make sure. We have a normal map, everything. Now, we can apply this to the world however we like. So let's take one of these cubes in the distance. One of these guys that's next to the light, so we can do that. How's that? And we just drag and drop him onto there, and now he's been applied. And there are ways to scale the texture and scale the results, and everything looks really nice there. And down here we have some options in the materials. But now that I have this, I could instance from here, and I could make a whole nother copy that is, say, a darker stone. It's very easy to do that. So let's take a look at it real quick. We'll play and run over to it. And here's our stone, and you can see the light starting to play there with it. And it does a fantastic job of showing off the lighting in this engine is beautiful right away. I don't have to do a lot to it. I do find that in Unity there's a lot more to it to get good lighting, but yeah, that's working really nicely. And I can show you, I think I have that open. Let's see, I will get that image up for you really quickly, because that UE4 learning folder that I have, I've been learning obviously learning UE4, no surprise there, but I created this in my sample project, and you'll see how nice this turned out with the stone floor. Saving, oh, there it is. So as we can see here, it does a great job of showing off the lighting, and this is a pretty standard material. I followed a tutorial, created it, and what I've done here is just copied it and rotated each quadrant so that you don't have the same pattern repeating. But this is the default lighting. I did nothing but put one light down and say go. So it's really gorgeous. You get a lot of bang for your buck out of the lighting right away. So that's about all I have for today as far as learning UE from learning UE from Unity, and it's been an awesome journey so far, and I'm really excited for the future with it because knowing both programs means I can help more people, I can do more things, I can try out different techniques using different pieces of software. So I really appreciate you guys sticking with me today, and I really hope this has helped you. If you liked it, please, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. Let's make sure that everybody learns and grows and becomes better artists every day. That is my true passion. And as always, guys, keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.